everyone. I'm Brooke Shapiro. I am the Chief Mom Officer of Sprinkles Parents. If you aren't familiar with Sprinkles Parents, we are a community that provides education, activities, and resources to families in the Bay Area and beyond. We have cohorts of kids on the spectrum, single parents, LGBTQ families, all different types of families as we all are navigating our children the best we can. Some of us survived COVID. Some of us are now figuring out AI and parenting. And so I'm really grateful that you are here today to learn about how you can support your neurodivergent or special needs kids while working. And so with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through everything today. And feel free to reach out with any questions or become a member of Sprinkles Parents so you can get more toolkits, templates, communication emails, and all different types of resources and how to apply for schools through Sprinkles Parents. We make parenting easier and so that parents can thrive, not just survive. All right. So, without further ado, bear with me. All right. Gonna minus myself. So, today we're going to learn how to navigate your child's unique needs at school and while you're a working parent, because advocating for your kids could be a full-time job. So, today we're going to learn how to set your kids up for success at school in activities instead of trying to play catch up later. And then we'll talk about proper communication to your work manager, to boundaries if you are an entrepreneur and have clients, so that you can set yourself up for success, how to manage work with all your parenting responsibilities. And then my favorite part is actually some technology that can help you navigate your child and navigate you working to help save you time and get you all the tools and resources you need for your family. So the first thing I just want to call out is the language that I use. So you're going to see me say differences, atypical, non-typical, emotional, physical disabilities, neurodivergent spectrum disabilities. I actually don't love any of that language. So I am going to try and not use it and have others not use it. It's just what's known today. A lot of those language makes your kid and may make you feel that they're other than, right? That they don't belong where they are, which is not true, right? We all know our children are special and they belong wherever. And so I prefer to call kids that are on the spectrum or have physical disabilities or emotional disabilities, whatever it could be, more circle kids. I love the term circle kids because the world was made for these square pegs that everyone needs to fit into, which is not correct. And our kids are circle where they just have their own pegs to go into. So I'm coining the term circle kids. And then when I'm also calling that parenting that many of us are doing who are on this webinar, premium parenting. We do not have parenting on easy mode. We do not have parenting where we just kind of go through the motions. We are all needing to navigate more complexities than the average parent. And so with that, you'll hear me say premium parenting for what we all do on this call. Um, it's not hard mode. It's just we are able to handle more challenges. So, just really quick, who I am and why I'm here to talk to you today is I actually have a son that's autistic and a daughter and son that have Charcot-Marie-Tooth, which is a degenerative nerve disease. I also am a sandwich parent, so I take care of my parents. They live with me sometimes. And then, as I mentioned, I'm the chief mom officer. And Sprinkles Parents, again, we provide you the guide that they forgot to give us at the hospital. Everyone needs a guide or some tips and tricks. We also have resources like house cleaners, camps, tutors, every after school programs, everything you need. We also have our monthly newsletters with discounts and different topics that we talk about to help parents. And then we have the tech tools. I'm talking about AI, how to make things easier. And then lastly, our hub of over 20 hours with content like this that any parent, adult, grown up can watch to learn more to support their family in an inclusive and authentic way. So, the invisible mental load is real for all parents. I don't think that's any surprise. We've heard it in the news now, especially motherhood. And so that's just a typical parent, like we talked about. But when your kids need more support in school, at home, you have a lot more parenting responsibilities, more on your plate. It goes a lot deeper. It's like little paper cuts, right? Like it's not a big deal. You have to file a 504 or IEP, but it's all of that that might go into it of setting up the meeting, getting an advocate for the meeting. If you need a lawyer, if you're going to ask what you can receive, all of that emotional labor. So just to back up again, a typical parent, which is if you have read Fair Play by Eve Rakowski, she just talks about regular parents is broken out into four different clumps, we'll call them. First is domestic labor. So that's the admin, cleaning, the dishes, the laundry. That's usually more, I think of it as like lower income labor that you could pay to outsource sometimes. Um, and then there is the cognitive labor. So think of that almost as like the managerial labor, which has more of the mental load, the doctors, the social calendars, making sure the bills are paid. And the cost of paying bills is actually four times higher for disability families. Again, I don't love that word, but that was the term in the research. And then there's this emotional labor that, moms tend to take on more, but parents are all feeling is getting past that guilt. You don't want to upset your coworkers with your needs and doing your job. You're not trying to set off your kids if they have emotional needs and holding space for them, for their feelings, their tantrums, their confusion, everything like that. That's a lot on a parent's plate. And then kin keeping. So that's the things like calling your grandmother on their birthday, sending the family holiday cards, hosting the holiday events like Thanksgiving in a few weeks, right? Or it could be Christmas or whatever, the birthday parties, all of that are different responsibilities broken up into four for just regular parents, right? And a lot of this tends to fall on mothers thinking about the kin keeping, right? The emotional labor, the doctor's appointments. Those three tend to fall a lot on women, which is why a lot of moms are starting to burn out more. And, anyways, again, this is just still typical parenting on a day to day. So, again, here are all the things parents do, like we talked about feeding your kids, clothing your kids, hygiene your kids, nursing them, childcare, taking them places, right? That is, if they're little, wiping bottoms, this is still a lot. And then when you're a premium parent, like I've been talking about, we have to acknowledge and realize that we are holding so much more. And we know that, and we know that we're not the same maybe as some of our friends, but it's important that we have the language to know how we are needing to parent or what we have on our plates. So this the more communicating to teachers, there is the time for needing to transition from one thing to another. The school resources like I talked about, getting them to listen and to get them out the door, getting the therapist, is it covered by insurance, figuring out the insurance, advocating. There is a lot more, and I don't think anyone listening needs me to. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but a lot of the times I share this training or this slide with people that could be working with me or with a manager, just so they have a sense of what is more on my plate than maybe a typical employee that is also a parent. So they have a sense of what is going on. And so the UN reports that there are a billion neurodiverse and development challenged children, and that number continues to grow to improved awareness. So I like to share this number so that you don't feel like you're the only one. Maybe there's just a few of you. There are really 1 billion people out in the world just like us that are trying to navigate this world, like I mentioned, as a circle or having circle kids in the square peg world. And so 42% parents have at least one physical or mental challenge child in their home. So if you think about if you are asked talking to a manager, it shouldn't be surprising. There are 40% of other parent employees. And then usually 57% of the family members have the same diagnosis as their children. Either they didn't realize it till they're going through the process with their kids, or maybe they've known it all along. Or I know for me, it's always like a trigger of like seeing all the things that are hard about myself in my child. And I feel guilty about passing it on, or I see what it's like now. Anyways, but these parents actually who have kids that are on the spectrum or disability are twice as likely to get divorced. So it's about 87% of those parents. Then therefore they become single parents, which is, a whole slew of more responsibilities to navigate co-parenting, to be on your own, navigate your own finances and not having that shared labor. So I just think this is important for all of us to know, and we can use these as facts when talking to managers later on, things like that. So for Sprinkles Parents, why I created it was my hypothesis and feeling is that if parents are thriving, they have emotional capacity, they are aware, they have the tools, they have the resources, they feel supported, they feel like they belong, they feel like they are part of a community. When the grown-ups are taken care of, the kids perform better. And then the kids perform better, they're kinder to their classmates, which creates a more beautiful, diverse, accepting, empathetic, belonging world. And so that's why I believe with Sprinkle Parents is I focus on helping families, the parents first, and to give them the tools to help their kids. So what I always say to parents is, when setting your kids up for success, if you get that done early, you will be better off instead of playing catch up. If you have an inclination in your mind, start to figure it out. Don't be pushing it to the side. It's very important that you nip it in the butt and like get the support your kid needs early. You start the process because everything takes twice as long as you think. Like if you need a regional center, it took us 18 months to get the services. Sometimes to get your insurance approvals can take time. So the faster, not to add more pressure, but the earlier you do things, you will be ahead and foundationally set up than always trying to catch up later with an AD&D diagnosis if they're older, or figuring out if they need braces if they're older, whatever that could be. So I've broken it down into um, six steps. We'll talk about the sixth one in a second. But the first one is, like I said, meet early, communicate often. So that could be in the start of the school year, always have a meeting with that teacher. Make sure that new teacher knows your child in and out from their diagnosis, what supports they need, where they thrive. I always make a manual, I call it my son, their daughter's manual, with what works best for them the beginning of the year. Yes, there are IEPs that you've done, but those are all like school district, which are important to do, but sometimes it's faster and easier just to work with a teacher and, get them the information they need concise than reading through those complicated IEPs. I also like to make my manuals a little bit more fun and personal, which the teachers enjoy reading versus IEPs can be very clinical and stale. And I'll show you what an example could look like in 1 second. And then I always plan ahead at the end of the year, kind of have like, okay, how did this go? Again, not an IEP per se, just meeting with the teacher, figure out what the plan is for next year. What do I need to ask for the IEP if it's an IEP time for next year? What worked, what didn't work, just so we know at all points how to best support my kid and how to teach others. Because if you get it right in school, you also have camps, you might have after school activities. It's going to be the same thing everywhere you go that you need to ensure your child set up for success. Um, Front load support, so get the extra help early. It may seem extreme where maybe they don't need an aide in the classroom, or maybe they can do the gymnastics bar without falling. But just again, if you can always get support early, it's easier to scale back than trying to catch up, like I said earlier, and get some more support in later. And then always create a buffer for any, transition from like the beginning of the school year, for the beginning of new activities, as you will have a lot more, challenges trying to get the right mix potentially for your kids to go to that activity of, again, which support works, what doesn't work, how to get them there, things like that. The third thing I always say is build out your team, meaning your teachers, your child is part of your child's team, your OT, your PT. They are all one team. They don't do a good job talking to each other. In fact, they usually don't talk to each other. So as a parent, I always find that I am connecting the dots for all my teachers and kids and the school system. So everyone knows what's going on. So there isn't, OT is doing the same thing as PT who's doing the same thing, and pull out, just so everyone knows what they stand, what they need to be working on with my kid, and how to best support them. I also, like I said, have one sheeters about OT's doing this, PT's doing that, so everybody knows what's going on. So it's not too long and lengthy. Everything's just quick, cute, fun little tidbits where the teachers always joke they want a t-shirt that says Team Jace or something like that, because they feel like they're really part of this unique team, which is I think has helped set my son up for success, where we actually are at a point where we don't need an IEP after, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years. Also, establishing routines is really important. Make sure everything is very visual so your kids know what's happening, so you know what's happening. There's consistency for your kid, as that's how child learn best with routines. Even if your kid is of likes free for all and likes to be outside the box and be really creative, it's still important that they know what to expect when, because then they can feel very out of control. They can feel very confused, and that's where a lot of things happen. And then empower teachers with the tools. What I like to do is I share books or short videos about my kids' diagnosis and disabilities so that my teacher, like I said earlier, will make sure they understand, and even for the classmates to understand. Just normalizing inclusion in any setting, I think, is really going to set all of our kids up for success. Whether, again, that's on the soccer field, if they do bowling like my kids, karate, wherever it could be, just normalize inclusion, make sure everyone knows what's going on. It's not something to hide in shame. Um, so, for example, I actually write some children's books about being twice exceptional, Charcot-Marie tooth disease, autism and fidget spinners, things like that. And so, in the beginning of the school year, I make sure I give it to my teachers as a gift. I say either I can come and read it or they can come and read it. My son doesn't like me reading it. So now we're at a point where the teacher reads the book to the class. And then people can kind of see, like, oh, like that kid has braces. Oh, yeah, look, Jace has braces too. Or, oh, yeah, that kid does get to have a fidget spinner. Cool. Just like this girl in this room. So it sort of helps kids be like, all right, this is cool. She's in a book. Like, I need to know that this is helping them. If I see this kid getting upset, I can grab it for her. And it helps, again, bring in the inclusion in your classroom. So try and bring as many, books and tools or videos that you want the teacher and that she can share with the classmates also too. The sixth thing. So this is simplifying schedules. This is the biggest lesson that I think I learned the past, years, and it saved my life. And it helped my son actually really grow. I was following all the doctor's directions and doing this appointment and that appointment. Then we go to speech and then we go to this activity. And it was just too much. Even though all of these different therapies and activities were all good intended, after school or at or daycare or what preschool, whatever it could be, your kid has been either masking all day or just working really hard to walk or move around. They are likely more tired than all other kids, that a school day is just built for them, right? They were able to run up and down the stairs. They're able to go from one thing to another, but our kids are working so hard every day that sometimes by the time they're done with school, they need a break. They need to relax, just like, we might feel tired after hard conversations, or we might feel tired after working day. Our kids do too. So all these appointments and therapies may be detrimental instead of helpful for your kids sometimes. You also need to sort of gauge and navigate, is it worth it? For example, we stopped doing PT, and my son has a physical disability, and everyone thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be awful. He's going to regress and this and that. And instead, he started to do so much better because his muscles were relaxed when, we did an exercise at home while watching TV instead of having to go somewhere. Um, and just like letting them relax, as they can be so physically and emotionally tired that it just spirals them and makes things worse than helpful. So really pick and choose. Some you don't have to do it all. So some seasons you might do PT, then you might do just OT, or maybe you just do speech. Like, it's a lot to do all of them, and to have your kids getting pulled in and out of the school is also can be really hard for them too, with all those transitions. They may feel embarrassed. So just keep in mind all of those things. So what I want to show you guys is the manual I had mentioned earlier. Um, I'm going to show you here. So here's just an example. Um, some people like to do it like a resume. This isn't how I do it, but I've seen other parents do this, and I think it's very clever. They talk about how it's, it's always strengths based. It's just about who they are, what's hard, what works, what doesn't work. Very simple, clear one sheet a teacher can read at the beginning of the year. And again, it also helps these teachers or counselors get excited to meet your kid as well. So they feel very close to them before the school even starts versus just another name on paper, which goes back to building the team. What I do for my kids, just because I have a lot more that I'd like to share, and I overshare, is I have this Word document. I made it in ChatGPT. I have a GPT if anyone needs it or likes it. That's part of the Sprinkles Parents resources that I share as a member. So I just do something fun like their horoscope, their strengths, their interests. I talk about what their connection language is. I talk about family, if separation, if divorcing, who the kids are, how to contact me, and if it's urgent, especially with things with camp. So it's the counselors usually have it printed out in case they need to call me. Again, goals, the medical, I kind of bring to the end. I talk about strategies that have worked, any learning tools, emotional world for my kids, what helps them regulate, watch outs, things that'll trigger him, just their personality, best conditions, and any long term visions. So it's a little bit longer, but I personally feel as if it's fun to read versus it being too long to read. And so teachers tend to just enjoy it like with a glass of wine at the end of it, before school starts. Um, all right. So next, go back to where we are. So clarity on your kids' needs is very, we just talked about is important. But you also need to have that same clarity for yourself at work, right? So we talked about setting your kids up for success, but it's really important that you have to set yourself up for success. So how do you do that? There are three ways that I have figured out to help in the workplace. I used to work for Clorox, I worked for Taco Bell, worked at advertising agencies. And so I've really figured out how you can balance both by just the communication you have with either your manager or if you work for yourself, your clients. So the first thing is communication. So just you want to make sure everything's communicated, it's documented. Um, I have heard people say things you can never untell someone, which I completely understand the fear, especially nowadays with everything going on. But if it's been told, you're more likely to get support. The only time I would say not to tell is if you're thinking of changing districts. For example, we had our IEPs in place with our school district. We wanted to change to a better school district. And because we had the IEP in place and we had support and speech all through our school district, we couldn't or another school district didn't want to accept us because that's going to cost them more money, like need more resources for us, etc. So that's the one time where it actually did shoot me in the foot. But from a work standpoint, I haven't ever heard, you can never untell as long as it is honest. You keep your story consistent. You're not breaking your boundaries. It's important that you do share, and I'll talk about why in a second. Second is tap into your network and community. We all think we have to do this alone. Only we know how to handle our kids. Only we can bring our kids places or drive them. It doesn't have to all be us. Even though our kids may not be, the square, the perfect child, the easy, like people are willing and want to help us. And it's 10 times easier to help someone else's kid than to help our own. And our kids tend to listen more. And so, make sure to ask for help. If you hide inside and you separate yourself from the world and separate your kid from everybody else, it will be very hard. You're doing yourself and your kids a disservice, which I'll talk to you about also in a second. But please think about your community. Your neighbors want to help. There are many older neighbors that just are looking for someone to hang out with and care for and play chess with or do word puzzles with and would love to spend time with their kid or are also in wheelchairs and they can hang out. We just forget how we've forgotten over the years, especially with COVID, about our community. And then the third thing, like I mentioned in the beginning, the technology, use it to our advantage. Like we shouldn't be struggling. We've put men on the moon. We can send messages across the world. We can we can send videos to people with, emoji. Like technology is here. We're going to talk about how you can use it to help you in your life with your kids. And this really would apply to any parent. So you need to make sure all your conversations are honest, sincere, and realistic. You're not asking for their sympathy. You're not asking for them to feel sorry for you. You just are saying, this is my reality. And you have your clear boundaries. So you know every day what you need to do when you get into the office and how to get out of there. You can say no if you know you don't need to do someone's baby shower, you don't need to help with special projects. Like you can say no. It's not an issue because you can open up opportunities for other people on your team. This might not be the time. You need to communicate your schedule. So if you do have lots of appointments during the day, just make sure your manager or people are knowing where, what's going on in case they're looking for you. A lot of companies have been suggesting open calendar policies so people know, oh, I'm taking, I have so and so's casting appointment or I have this appointment. So your employees know, like, this is serious, not to bother you, not a random um, calendar blockage. It's not just driving someone to camp. It's actually like this is going to be an appointment where I'm going to have to like hold down my kid, whatever that could be. Make sure you're consistent. Do not, like I say, like have this boundary, break your boundary, flip flop on what, your kid is ADD, your kid is autistic. Like you need to have a clear story and your clear diagnosis and everything so your employer knows or people know. Like I said, block your calendar. It's important to share, so speak to your manager. It's just for now, nothing is permanent, right? Like your kid may be going through a point where they're needing to have a surgery. That's not forever. They'll be better, they will feel better at some point. So, just make sure that your manager and everyone knows, like, just for the next 3 months, I need a little bit of grace as we're going to have a surgery for my son and it's going to require some appointments in the beginning and some care afterwards. I'll take time. And then also talking to uh, your manager and or your HR, believe it or not, they can help you navigate what kind of benefits or support and expectations you need. Even though it might feel like a scary meeting, I really suggest that you talk to your manager and be like, hey, what can we do? What an HR, what benefits do I have? Can I go on family leave? Oh, I could go on family leave. Oh, can I use this insurance benefit? Oh, I didn't even realize you had that insurance benefit of a caretaker during those times. So the more you share, the more you'll know about what benefits you have, how to navigate them, how to use them, and be resourceful. Your career. So just be realistic with yourself. You might not, you can have it all, just not all at the same time. Or you can be growing in your career and your partner is taking more of the child care responsibility or a grandparent or caretaker, whatever that could be. And if that's your priority, that is welcome. And you're supporting your family. You can be just everyone has different roles in the family, like we talked about earlier. You could be the one that's just like financially supporting your kid and you're not that emotional parent, right? We all have different roles in this world. You only have so much energy, so it's really hard to navigate it all. So kind of pick which one you're rooting for at this time and know that the weight may be a little bit on one side. It'll never be exactly balanced. And then just be creative. You're learning a lot of skills as a parent, especially as a premium parent. Bring those to your manager, when you talk about your skill set or for job opportunities or interviews. Like you've now learned negotiation, you've learned management, you've learned let's see, operations, supply chain management when you're pumping, you learned operations of, logistics, all of that now as a parent. And those are real talents. So HR leaders and managers can benefit, like I said, from being aware. They can help equip you, they can help your manager get training. If it's communicated, no one will be surprised and they can, as they see resources, they might see benefits, they can keep you in mind to test out. For example, really quick at my company, I think I was talking about like milk. We were going to a conference and having our milk go, being pumped and sent back. And so talked about milk storage. And so we were trying it, as a company first and gave feedback. And then the company decided to roll it out. So if you tell your HR, you might be able to get those benefits early, or you might be able to share a benefit with HR that they might be able to bring on that you see that could be something that could be beneficial, like backup childcare if your kids are sick, or um, who knows, like therapy, things like that. Again, use your network. What can you do? What can you take off your plate? Who can do that? Just start making a list. Take stuff off your plate as much as you can. It doesn't have to be you for every appointment. They're not all equal. So if it's just like a standard appointment, maybe a partner or a grandparent can go. Um, how you can ask your community help where there are other people like you to find your people in community. There's spirited play labs, the services with respite care can help you. If anyone is looking for a good movie in a different key on PBS, they found when communities help kids that are circle kids, they don't fit the exact mold, the community gets stronger, the kids perform better, there's more acceptance and empathy in that community. So you're helping the community by, having them know your kid, supporting your kid, working with you, bringing your kids to appointments, educating the class about how they are. And then, again, you can give other people on your team opportunities if you're trying to take work off your plate. A new assistant, a new employee, you're helping other people. So you don't have to feel like you handle it all. All right, the last section is technology can save you time. So there's so much parent tech out there. I didn't share, but my other world is I'm a consultant for parent tech companies, not all of these, where I help them understand if this will be supportive for parents, how do they reach parents, who are what are the parents saying they need, what are trends in parenting. And so a lot of this technology that has been, are getting funded can help all these parents out. Because I can't help all these companies, a lot of these companies aren't always making it to parents or not always making it to HR as benefits to give to their employees or for you to try on your own. So some things are just like managing your calendar. Sounds silly, but we're always doing these like PDFs or my kids are bringing home paper, then I have to put it in my calendar. It's kind of a pain in the neck. So you can have Pop-ins or Agenda Hero help you with all those, just forwarding it to them, and then they make the calendar invites for you on your correct calendar. Hearth and I actually love my Skylight. Those are two great visual calendars you probably have seen on TikTok where you can see what's happening every day, what kid's going where, what parent is taking kid where. It also has your kids' chores. It has your dinners planned out. It has your what you need at the grocery store, family pictures. It's just all in one place in your room, and it can help you better balance and navigate your day and help with any communication, things like that. I love those. They saved our family. Self-organizing. I feel like sometimes we have so much, especially as a premium parent, that we need to do. Like, how do I get my kid this service? And so BOSA will help you break that down. Cozio Maple also helps with those responsibilities. Who's doing it, who can do it, when they can do it, things like that for delegation. Also, being organized is really hard when you're working, you have your home life, you're juggling lots of things. I personally use Duckbill. It helps me with I plan my kids' camp. So I just said what my budget was, when dates, what the kids want, what to keep in mind. They said, "Is this okay?" I said, "Great." They planned vacations that we were all burning out. Like, here's my budget. Where can we go? What do we do? Duckbills got us a new fridge because I was broke when it broke. Like all these different little things that kind of pile on you Duckbill can do for you, which I really appreciate. And they hire, I believe they hire other moms looking for part-time work. Same with Tula. That's usually given by as a benefit versus you being able to access it on your own from your company. And Sundays does something similar as Duckbill and Tula. And I've heard really great things. I just haven't personally used it yet. Um, so food and home. That was an energy suck for me, time suck for me. My kids actually really need my attention and focus all the time, especially when they're home from school. They're so excited to tell me about everything. So I couldn't be stuck back in the kitchen. I couldn't be stuck trying to figure out what's for dinner on my phone. I can't be stuck, doing the laundry while they're, or having them help me do laundry. So anyways, the long story short is take these things off your plate if they don't bring you joy. If you like cleaning, cool. If you like doing laundry, awesome. If you like planning your family meals and cooking, that is great. But if you're like, okay, what are some easy things I can just take off my plate? There's Homoglow that is like an app to get on-demand cleaning. There's Hamper that does your laundry for you. Paprika Ollie plan all your meals. Foodum brings in a personal chef to your house, and so they will, they're in school, so they're not expensive like high-end chefs. They're more like still learning, but they make a good meal. Foodum gives them all the tools and the recipes, and you just pick which ones you want. that has been amazing for our family actually, and we're starting to eat healthier and less microwaved meals, so that was great. Logistics, again, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be you taking your kids places. There are all these carpool apps, Go Kids. You can also look at Coexist and Orgo, which will help you figure out your logistics for all your family needs. Again, who's going on what, where they're going, plotting it out for you. If you're like going on this trip, what do I need to do? What has to get taken care of? Or Go Coexist help you with that. This is more for a premium parent, the Circle Kids. A lot of tech is happening in the space, which I love. IEP Me helps you navigate your IEP plans. Child Life on Call if you have kids that you need help with how to get them services, what you can you do. Child Life on Call will help you navigate and walk you through step by step. Kids therapies appointments, as I mentioned, I don't. My kids get dysregulated, and it's really hard physically to have them go places. So Coral Care brings therapies to your home. Kyo Care is also ABA that comes to your home and it's an app and you see what your kids are working on, which I appreciated, versus not knowing, you don't know if they show up. Like Kyo Care has who's showing up when, at what time, consistency, really like their product. Goalie is another one for kids on the spectrum. They have iPad that helps you with all your like what to do next, what to do in social situations, how are you feeling? It has your AAC on there. um, my kids are screen addicts, so it didn't work for us, but I think for other kids, it probably is really, I know it's really beneficial. Activities connections, trying to find activities for your kids is super hard. So Plan My Kid, Be a Kid, they will, you could put in your, what you need for different activities to see if it'll meet your kids' needs or they can help you find that. Tutoring, there's lots of online tutoring, different groups, homeschool groups like Dailies Pod. Childcare, Smart Sitting Bambino, call Emmy. You can tell them what kind of childcare you need for your circle kids because you just can't usually hire a random teenager. You need someone who has a bit more skill, up level skill set. So to easily find them, you can use those sites. Other things is I didn't really talk about this due to time, but when you have circle kids and you're a premium parent, you need a lot of self care. It's important for all parents, but especially all of us that are exerting a little bit more energy. So I highly recommend the I Am app. That's my favorite. I also do it with my kids to talk about I am strong, I am smart, I am capable. You have all these different I ams to rewire years in your kid's brain. Headspace is great. Calm. Insight Timer has a lot. Zeal has on-demand massages you can get, can be covered by sometimes employer benefits. Parenting, coaching, emotional regulations. If you have questions, like if you have like just really quick questions about your kids' behavior or their social emotional, there's Chom Chom, Hey Kiddo, Shimmer, Happy Pillar Little has a whole network of parent coaches. Healthcare, if you need to just get medications, like for ADHD or quick diagnosis is done. Spring Health, Better Help, caregiver support. Ellie Plan helps you build like a plan for your kids for, every day for caretakers and also like if you pass away and thinking about the financials and everything that goes into it. Holland has lots of tools and products that are all for circle kids. Dovetail helps as well, connecting, everyone who's supporting your kids to be on one page. And then there's community building, Sprinkles Parents, as I mentioned, my community, which I'd love you to join. There's Divergently, Honeycomb, Constella, Society of Moms. I'm actually loving as a spectrum mom myself, a kid with on a spectrum. Spectrum Circle has been really great. So I feel less alone and they have chatting and you can meet new friends. It just depends on what you want. If you want resources, do you want to meet people? Do you want education? All different things that come in a community. So just a quick recap to make sure we all have our takeaways is, set your kids up for success, communicate your boundaries, tap into your network, use tech and AI and tools to save time. And I'd love to stay in touch. Here's my email, brooke@brookeshapiro.com. You can find me on Amazon, Brooke Shapiro for Earth School Books, where I have books about kids and fidget toy spectrum, CMT, money values, alignment, setting boundaries for kids. and just have my Sprinkles Parents community. So I just want to help parents thrive in any way that I can. That's my life mission. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you for joining. Bye.